Alright boys, welcome back to part 2 of the GUI tutorial. What I'm going to do today is we're going to script some fun stuff, okay? So, last time, again, and I'll link the, actually no, I won't link, bro. You know what? You can type, you know how to use YouTube. Just look up ByteBlocks GUI tutorial 1, something like that. You'll find it, right? So what we did was we made this screen GUI with this background frame. You know, we added some corners to it. You know, we made this nice little gradient. Added a stroke to it, which a stroke is like a border. Gave that a gradient as well. And we made this text box. Oh yeah, over here, a text box over here, which says hello world, right? That is pretty cool. Now what I'm thinking we do is I'm going to teach you how basically whenever the player types something inside of this text box and hits enter, we're going to spawn in whatever part that the player types in, right? So if the player types in let's see, what are the different part shapes actually? Like what are they called? I'm curious. So yeah, if the player types in ball, it's gonna summon a ball above their head. If they type in block, it's gonna summon a block above their head. Corner wedge summons a corner wedge. Cylinder will summon a cylinder, and wedge will summon a wedge. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So in short, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna create a local script inside of the text box. Has to be a local script because remember, GUI is local, right? So this is what the player sees. This isn't like something that the server, the game sees. This is just what every individual player sees. And it's always good to name your script. So I'll say text box script like so. And we'll say local box is equal to script dot parent. Wonderful. Okay. And I'll say, actually no, it's fine. And then I'll say box, and let's see what we can do with it, right? Changed, input began, child added, input ended. Let's see. Focused, touch pan, focus lost. Okay, so it kind of gives us some mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse move. What we need to do is we just need to detect whenever, okay, fired immediately after a property of an object changes. Okay, so probably what we want to do is we want to detect whenever the text property of the text box is changed, right? And instead of saying, changed, what's better, I think, is say get property change signal, because then we actually can detect when, because things dot changed, right, will fire when any single property changes, any single one, right? But then using get colon get property change signal, that we can basically tell it like, okay, here is the property that we want to look out for, right? And the property is going to be text. There we go. So we connect that to a function like so. So whenever the property of text is changed, let's just print out the text, okay? Let's print out box.text like so. So yeah, whenever the property is changed, we're going to print out the text. So let's try that. And low. Wonderful. Oh. Wow. Splendid. That's amazing. So as you can see, that actually works, right? So now what we could do is, let's say we want to create a part, right? And we want to summon it above the player's head. And we want to actually give it a shape, right? So we want to give it, ball, block, corner wedge, cylinder, or wedge. So here's what we are going to do, right? I'm gonna say, yeah, okay. So we have this part, right? And then if I were to say, I'm just trying to figure out how to do this, right? Because probably what we want to do is this will do it on the client, right? So that is the issue. So okay, now we can detect whenever the property of the text box has changed. But if we want to actually add a part in, we would have to do it on a server script, because doing it on a local script will make the part, but only the player will see it, right? So maybe that's what you want, but only the player is going to see it. So other players in the server aren't going to see your part. So if that's something you want, this is where we can use a remote event. So let me show you real quick, right? So I'll just call this GUI event, something like that, right? And then we need also a server script over here, which I'll just call GUI script. Why not, right? And then we probably want to reference the event in a variable. So I'll just say local event is equal to game replicated storage, wait for child, GUI event. And now I'll copy this and then I'll paste this over here, like so. Awesome. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll take this part and I'll move it into replicated storage as well. And I'll explain why in a bit, right? And so whenever the property change signal.text, actually, fires, what we're going to do is we're going to basically check, right? So we're going to check if, let's see, because okay, I'm going to make a variable for the part. Because what I want to do is whenever the player actually types something, we want to somehow check whether whatever the player typed is one of these 5, right? So if the player types ball, we want to summon a ball. If the player types block, we want to summon a block. But if the player doesn't type any of these 5, how do we know that, right? So let's see. So if I just say local part is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child part. And then if I say part.shape is equal to, let's see, enum shape. How can we check the shape of something? Name, enum type. Interesting. Okay, so, oh, okay, I think I understand. So if I were to print the part dot shape, let's see, part dot shape dot name. So if I were to do that, and right now I believe it was a block, right? So I believe we left it as a block. So just whenever I say anything, awesome. Okay. So yeah, so that's gonna print the name of the shape. So that is actually very nice. Okay. Now let's try something. Here's what I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna just fire the event, right? I'm gonna say event, fire server, and we are gonna give it the box.text, okay? So we're gonna fire to the server, and we're gonna give it the box.text. And then on here, we can say events.onServer event, which will give us 2 things. It's gonna give us the player who fired the event, and then it's gonna give us whatever we fired after, which was the text of the box. So I'll just say text, right? Oh no, wait, my bad. We connect it to a function. So connect function, player, text. There we go. Awesome. So whenever the player, changes anything, it changes the text, this will fire. Now we could just say, oh yeah, and then we could, make a part, and then we could say, okay, part dot, shape is equal to this, whatever. Or what we could do is we could do this. We could say, so we could make 2 variables. We could make local success, and we could make local error message, like so. And then what I'll do is I'll say success and error message is equal to a pcall, like so. So in short, what a pcall is, right? I know it's like I'm strafing away from like the GUI aspect, but what a pcall does is basically like when we run something here, right? When we try and run the code in a function, if this code will result in an error, right? Then the script isn't gonna just crash, right? It's just gonna say, okay, this code isn't working, and it's gonna continue going. So that's what a pcall does. So a pcall basically allows us to run code, and then if the code runs successfully with no errors, then success is gonna be equal to true. However, if there is an error, then success is gonna be equal to false, and then it's gonna give us an error message, right? Very simple. So then what we could check is we could say, okay, and I'll just make a thing for the part. So I'll say local parts is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child part, like so. And so now we're gonna say part.shape is equal to enum, I think it's part type. There we go. So now it's gonna give us this. So ball, block, wedge, cylinder, corner wedge, whatever. However, because we want, whatever the player types, instead of saying, dot, we'll just say these square brackets, and we're going to input the text. So this is going to attempt to change the part's shape into whatever the player typed, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to say, if not success, so if this code failed, then we're just going to return the function and end, right? So then the function will stop and not continue running. However, if it's continuing to run, it means that success is true. So then we can just, take this part. We can say local new part, which is going to be the clone of this part, right? We can take the part and we can move it to workspace. We can say part dot parent is equal to workspace, and then we can say part dot position is equal to player dot character dot head dot position, and then we'll just add on 0, 5, 0. So what this does is we're saying, okay, like make the parts position equal to the player's character head position, and then just make it like 5 studs higher than the head, right? So we don't want the parts to spawn inside of the player's head. We just want to spawn slightly on top. So that's what this plus is doing, right? Yeah, I mean that's basically, I believe, all there is that we need. So if I were to play the game right now, let's see if this works. So, okay, we have a hello. Oh wait, no. Okay. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. And we're able to run like this. And then if I say ball, corner, wedge, cylinder, ball. That is amazing. So the one thing I'm noticing is that it's not creating new parts, right? So if I were to say ball, right? As you can see, it doesn't clone the parts. It just continues having this like old one, right? And I don't know why it's doing that. Because let's see, part is replicated storage. Local new part is part.clone. So, colon.clone. Oh, I see why. Okay. We have to say new part. There we go. So I said new part, so we made a new part, but then by accident I instead of setting the new part's parent to workspace and the new part's position, I accidentally set the parts parent. So new part is the clone and part is the thing that's stored in replicated storage, right? So this should be working. I mean, hopefully, right? Let's see. There we go. That seems like it's working. Splendid. Wonderful. Awesome. And okay, we're wrapping up, but the last thing I want to do, the very last thing I want to do is, we actually done a lot, right? Last thing I want to do is I just want to add a button somewhere here, which is going to toggle the GUI. Okay, so I want to add a button, which when we click it, it's going to, make the GUI invisible or visible, right? So if the GUI is invisible and then we click the button, it's going to be visible. But if it's already visible, then when we click the button, we want to make it invisible, right? So what I'll do is I'll just inside starter GUI. I'm going to take this text box background, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it inside the screen GUI, like so. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. I'm going to remove the text box from here, right? And then I'm going to, what I should do is I'll make this smaller over here. There we go. So I'll make it a bit smaller. And then this button is going to be positioned in the center, like so. There we go. And it's also going to be like a little small, right? Not too big, just over here. Awesome. And then what I'll do is I'll add a button. So I'll add just a text button over here, which is going to be scaled. So it's going to be 1, 1, like so. So this will scale it fully. I'm going to remove the transparency. I'm going to set the font to be, what do we use? Ferdoka 1, I think? Yeah, Ferdoka 1. I'm going to scale it like so. I think we used padding. Did we use padding? We did use padding. So I'll copy the padding, and then I'll place it in the text button as well. Awesome. And then for the text, I'll just say menu. Like so. Awesome. There we go. So what we want to do is whenever this button is clicked, we want to do something with this background frame. So how about this? By default, it's going to be invisible, okay? So whenever the button's clicked, we want to toggle the visibility of our background frame, okay? So what I'll do is I'll add a local script in here. I'll just call it menu button script, like so. And I'll actually call this menu button as well. Menu button. And I'll just call this menu button as well. Why not? And then what I'll do is I'll say script.parent, which is the menu button. dot activated. So dot activated is like just whenever the button is activated, right? Be it whether someone clicks on it or someone like touches it with, like on the mobile device, that's what's going to happen. So we're going to connect that to a function like so. So whenever this button is clicked, we just want to toggle the visibility of this background frame, which we could make a variable for. So I could say local frame is equal to, it's going to be script.parent background frame. So script.parent. So right now we're on the menu button, .parent, which is going to be then the player's GUI. And then we can wait for child, background frame. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So this is going to be our background frame. So what we could do is the way we change it is we need to change the visibility, right? And so to just make the visibility like the opposite of what it is right now. So let's say it's not visible. If we want to make it the opposite of its current visibility, we're just going to say frame.visible is equal to not frame.visible. So it's going to set the frame's new visibility to negative its current visibility. So if its current visibility is false, then not false is equal to true. So it's going to set visible to true. But then if it is visible, then not true is false. So frame.visible is going to be set to false, right? So that should be done. That should be fairly easy, I think. Let's see. So we have that. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that is basically all there is for this episode. I'm not too sure what the next episode will be, right? But again, to recap, we learned how to make GUI, we learned how to script it, we learned about, like remote events, server to client communication, all of that, made a little, actually gave our GUI like more of a reason. So that's pretty nice. And yeah, give me ideas in the comments for what you want to see on the third one, or if there's anything that was like confusing about this tutorial, I'll make sure to answer most of your questions. And yeah, thank you for watching.